The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Dude, I think Dakota Joshua could score like 32 goals or 21. Nonetheless, I think he's the X factor for your Vancouver Canucks. Beggsy probably is another guy we'll talk about on this episode of Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer currently with a Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. You want to know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, get off your rear end and go subscribe, like on YouTube, or leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. And guess what? You don't even need to get off your rear end to do that. Let's go, baby. Because, hey, you know what? We ain't here without you, but we also ain't here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hockey, one of the greatest team sports out there, okay? You need your stars, but you also need other guys on the team to step up. You need those X factors, if you will. And man, oh man, could Dakota Joshua be one of those X factors for your Vancouver Canucks? Maybe, potentially. There's probably a couple other guys in mind that we'll touch on as well. But man, oh man, Dakota Joshua. Is he the next Todd Bertuzzi? Is that what Kyle Bowen's saying?
Whoa.
Find out in 2 minutes. Before we get into X factors, other breakout candidates. Canucks need to bust a move and do something this season. We'll get into all that. But before we do that, let me introduce my co-host, someone who knows how to bust a move pretty damn well. Kyle Bowen. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, man. Well, I used to be able to bust a move. Then I turned 31 and a half years old, and things aren't the same. Rhythm doesn't hit my bones the way it used to, you know? Straight up. And look at this comment right here, okay? KJ, are you guys aware that Securus and Price is on? You need a different time slot. Check you out later. Traffic stopping us. And it's ironic because Securus and Price, yes, that show, one of the greatest shows of all time. It's right up there with The Price is Right. It kind of set the tone for what we're going to talk about today. Because yesterday, I believe Blake Price talked about Dakota Joshua possibly playing with Elias Pettersson. And that was making me think, not of just that scenario, but of the possibility if that guy, number 81, the guy who just signed an extension with the Vancouver Canucks, can actually get better. Because I think there's 80% of us that are like, you know what? I'm happy with Dakota Joshua. You know, if he can get us 40 points and be that factor on the penalty kill and play big and defend his teammates and be a physical force, I'm good. He's an outlier still. He's still somewhat of a unicorn. But man, oh man, what if he has more offense? Because you look at his between the legs goal, right? Towards the end of the season. You look at some of the offense he had with Teddy Bluger and Connor Garland before he got hurt, and there's signs there of a guy who could score like 25 goals. I don't even think that's crazy. And if you put him with a Debrusk and Pettersson, again, something that Blake Price was talking about, it gets you thinking because, again, he's a unicorn. He's Dakota Joshua.
To me, I don't know if he's necessarily the X factor on this team. I don't know if he's necessarily a breakout candidate, but he is one of the most interesting players on the Canucks this season. And, you know, Rick Tocchet, man, oh man, one of the craziest quotes I've gotten from an NHL coach telling me that this guy could score 20 goals back when he was barely a 10-goal player. And look at last season, he was on pace for 23 goals over a full 82 games. And like you said, Kyle, the combination of the penalty killing, the hits, the fact that, you know, he knows how to get in front of the net and score goals from the greasy areas. There's a lot to like about his game. That being said, you know, I do wonder what his ceiling is, because I look at Dakota Joshua and his statistical profile, and, you know, maybe he could avoid regression playing higher up the lineup, but this guy's going to be hard pressed to shoot, you know, 20+% again this season. Like, he's going to need to find a way to get more pucks on net. And that's true for pretty much everyone else on this Canuck team. Again, this was one of the lowest shooting teams in the NHL last season. But Dakota Joshua up on the top line, I'm not opposed to it because you look right now, I see the Canucks having 2 spots open in the top 6. Like you have some combination of Miller, Boeser, Debrusk, and Pettersson in your top 6. The rest of it to me is up for grabs. And everydayers know, even occasional listeners might know, I've been touting Dakota Joshua and Connor Garland both to get shots in the top 6. But, Höglander, Sprong, Heinen, Sherwood, those guys are all part of the conversation too. So at the end of the day, the Canucks are going to have 4 good lines. And I think that's the brilliance in how this team has been constructed by Alvin and Rutherford. But is Dakota Joshua best suited on that line with Pettersson? I'm not quite sure if DeBrusk is going to be there, to be honest with you.
Whoa, you're not sure if like you don't know if DeBrusk and Joshua are gonna be there together with Pettersson, or
I'm just saying, like, based on what you said about like Blake Price theorizing that Dakota Joshua should be up there. I think having Dakota Joshua and Jake DeBrusk on the same line could be a bit redundant.
Okay.
I would, this team doesn't have a lot of physical guys. I would probably spread that out a bit more personally.
And here's the thing too, Trevor, and we should all know this, right? There's like a 4% chance that they get this right out of training camp. They get that ideal combination with Pettersson and DeBrusk, or Pettersson and whomever, right out the gate. And because the Canucks have so many more pieces this season to work with on the forward side of things, we're going to see a lot of shuffling of the decks. And I know we saw some of that with Rick Tocchet last year too, especially in the second half of the season. There was a lot of that blending going on and not a lot of consistency. But again, there's more real talent here. And we are going to see it for like 5 seconds. We are going to see it for 10 seconds. And whether it be with Pettersson or Miller, or maybe we'll see it for longer, I think Joshua's just going to get a look because of what he did last year, and him having a lot of respect from a guy like Rick Tocchet. Straight up, they play the game similarly, or they play the game similarly. They think those things. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that there's more to this guy. And if you put him with somebody who's not Teddy Bluger, and you've mentioned this so many times, like put him in the top 6 with Connor Garland. I just wonder if, because we're byproducts of who we're around, right? Like we become better based on who we are around. I wonder if somebody else outside of Teddy Bluger and Pius Suter, or a Lindholm, a struggling Lindholm, can captivate this guy to be a top 6 forward. I know it sounds crazy, but there was just moments last year, like little spurts, where Dakota Joshua was like, our 4th best forward. There was moments in the playoffs where he was our 3rd best forward.
Yeah, there was also long stretches of the playoffs where the guy wasn't really a factor, aside from throwing the odd hit here and there, right? Like, look at Dakota Joshua. Don't have it in front of me, but I believe he got like 5 or 6 of his 8 playoff points in 2 games, right? It was the first game and then another game in those playoffs too. So consistency is a big thing, especially if you're going to be having the big boy role, slotting in the top 6. But Kyle, to circle back, I certainly have my my reservations about Dakota Joshua as an X factor and a breakout candidate. But if you slot him up the lineup, I mean the possibility is there. I just think Tocchet is loath to split up Joshua and Garland. I mean, this has been his most consistent duo alongside Miller and Boeser since he joined the Vancouver Canucks, right? We saw this even in the shortened season when he took over from Boudreau, that Joshua and Garland were on the 3rd line and Miller and Boeser were playing alongside each other. So I think it's going to take a lot for Rick Tocchet to separate those 2 duos. I know he wants DeBrusk and Pettersson to work out as well. So yeah, I don't see it happening. I don't see him in the top 6, to be honest. But maybe he can earn his opportunity to get up there because, like you said, this guy was on pace for 23 goals and about 40 points last season.
Yeah.
And then he's one of the heaviest hitting players in the NHL. Oh, and he's a top penalty killer as well. And maybe he gets some power play time as well. Like I think there is another level to his game for sure. I'm not quite sure if he's going to get penciled into a top 6 role.
And Beggs, we spent like the first 9 minutes of the show or 7 minutes of the show, just going back and forth and not really, I wouldn't say seeing eye to eye, but just accepting the fact that this could be, the case with the number 81. Okay, Dakota Joshua, again, if he's just still the same guy that he was last year, he's worth every dollar. I know that's the case. I just wonder if he gets more time with the top guys, can he elevate his games? And if he gets more time with Elias Pettersson, I mean, does that allow Elias Pettersson to be more of himself? Because This guy was somewhat of a target a lot of times last season, and nobody was defending him. And I don't know if Jake DeBrusk is the toughest guy in the world. Like, who's tougher, Jake DeBrusk or Dakota Joshua? It's Dakota Joshua. It's just the truth. And DeBrusk played in Boston. He's just not that guy. He's built like that, but he's not that guy. And then you look at instances where Pettersson gets crushed in the playoffs and nothing's happening. Pettersson gets smoked after Nashville scores a goal and nothing is happening. Miller and Hughes skate right by him. You question those things, and Joshua being the glue guy, I feel as if Pettersson needs a homie like that. But Pettersson also needs the best player. Like Joshua, you're right though. Yeah. Joshua does need to be more of a dog and more consistent offensively speaking, not just on the PK, not just physically. Like, he needs to be more consistent offensively to ideally fit with Pettersson, because we're talking about Elias Pettersson not making 8.7, but making more than William Nylander, 11.6. We need this to work for real.
Yeah, Pettersson making 11.6, Crosby making 8.7. What a world we're living in. But look, I think Dakota Joshua might have had a better shot at playing top line minutes if the Canucks didn't sign DeBrusk. But I think they got to do they have to be careful about spreading out their physical guys and their skilled guys, right? Like, I think they're going to want like DeBrusk, Miller, and Joshua on separate lines. I think they're going to want like Höglander and Sprong on separate lines, despite what I might have said in my line projection back in July. So, I think Dakota Joshua theoretically is going to have to beat out Jake DeBrusk if he wants to roll in the top 6. I mean, to me, that's his path again to the top 6. But hey, Dakota Joshua proved everyone wrong last season. I don't think many people thought he would hit the 20-goal mark. When Talkett said that in 2022-23, and he was on pace for 23 goals last year. So Dakota Joshua, go prove me wrong. Go make Kyle look like a hero. Let's go.
Yeah, just do it, man. And I'm just a big DK fan for real. And I think prioritizing his extension over everyone else's, I know they got a lot of people done, but it felt like he was the big one. And outside of Zadorov, and you kind of, because of that and because of losing Zadorov and seeing our decor and all that, you kind of still need players to outplay their contract values. You know what I'm saying? And there is a world where Dakota Joshua, well, what's he getting paid? 3.75? Is that the number?
3.25.
3.25. Okay, so there is a world where I think this guy could be, supposedly in an alternate universe making 4.5 because he's putting up 26 goals and 40 points and being a good PK. I just think there's another level to this guy's game, and I've already doubted him so many times in his first 2 years with the Canucks, especially last year. Like 12 months ago, he's the first one getting called out by Rick Tocchet, and look at how he came back from that. Was such a force for the Canucks, and when healthy, and the way he was playing right before his injury, man, oh man, he was doing things. And as Trevor alluded to, Rick Tocchet likes his pairs, and the big reason why he was doing it was because of Connor Garland too. I understand.
Let us know in the comments. Do you think Dakota Joshua is going to be a top 6 player at some point this season? I don't see it to start the season, but at some point this season, will Dakota Joshua be one of the 6 most used Canucks forwards throughout the season? On the other side, let's get to a couple other X Factor candidates who could make the biggest difference among the Canucks players this season, okay? We'll also talk about maybe Canucks need to prove something, okay? They need to bust a move. They need to figure things out. They need to impress us, okay? Come on. High stakes here in Vancouver. All that coming up on the other side. We'll also get to your X Factors in the comments as well. But before we do any of that, let's shout out our friends over at FanDuel. All right. You've heard us talk about FanDuel a lot because they are America's #1 sportsbook. Well, they got something a little different for you going on right now. Now through September 22nd, 5 more days to go, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. It's the race between my Seahawks and Kyle's Packers, all right? Kyle's Packers going against and the Tennessee Titans in week 3. My Seattle Seahawks going against the Miami Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa. Man,
Whoa.
Oh man, my Seahawks they're going to be 17-0 this season, buddy. Sorry, Kyle. You might want to trade your Malik Willis jersey for a Geno Smith jersey. Let's go, baby. Whether you're betting on the Seahawks or the Packers, or you want to watch some free NFL games through YouTube TV, oh baby, make sure you go check all that out on FanDuel because they are America's #1 sportsbook. Go visit FanDuel.com and download them today.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks on YouTube and all these podcasting platforms at the same time in which Sakaris and Price are live. Okay, we're out here stealing their ideas, using their itinerary as our episode template. Now we're on the same time as them. We're starting some beef, bro. We just got here. I know it's it's year 2 full time, but Begsy, we got to slow down, bro. We just got here. Seniority, right? Seniority. That's a thing in life. Like we gotta respect our elders, man.
Nah, it's all good.
You know what we gotta do? I honestly, it's 2024. We're about to get into some more X Factors. It's the 2024-2025 version of your Vancouver Canucks coming up. And man, oh man, like I thought like 20 years ago when I was in elementary school reading books and but barely reading, but just seeing like the photos of these books about what the future would look like. Bro, where are the hover cars? Like, how come we're not in the air? How come it took me what? I was gonna say 90 minutes. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to drive from Surrey to Vancouver today. What's going on? Why don't we have hover cars yet?
That's a great question. Don't have the answer for you, but what's Elon Musk talking about? Not that I listen to a lot of what he says, but the underground roadways, like building like multiple levels of infrastructure for traffic.
Okay, come on, man.
Too, man.
Now you're talking boring. Come on, man. Trevor, it's a hockey show, okay? More X Factors, okay? Trevor, I already talked about Dakota Joshua, and you know what? I want to bring this guy's name up too, and this may surprise you, but I think he has to be an X Factor, and it's not Carson Soucy, it's Tyler Myers.
Tyler Myers is the X Factor. Okay, I'll say this. Carson Soucy to me is more of an X Factor than Tyler Myers, just because how much better is Tyler Myers going to be than he was last season? Now there's a precipitous cliff that he could fall off of, and we've seen that version of Tyler Myers in Vancouver.
No.
But to me, like the peak Tyler Myers is what you saw last season. I'd be shocked if he was any better than that. And even I was shocked about what he did last season. So I guess never say never, but this is a guy who's going to be 34 or 35 years old at some point next season. Carson Soucy to me has the higher ceiling as potentially being a rock solid number 3, one that I think can produce more offensively. He's hit double-digit goals recently, not back in 1976 like Tyler Myers last did when he hit double-digit goals. But Carson Soucy, with the mix of his defensive game, the mix of his ability to produce more offense, again, he's got way more offense to his game than what we saw last season. I think this guy has the potential to be a rock solid number 3, but there's also a floor that maybe this guy's nothing more than a bottom pairing defender, and that's trouble for your Vancouver Canucks. So for that reason, Carson Soucy to me is much more of an X factor than Tyler Myers. And because we're disagreeing, I'm hitting the button, baby.
Wow, Begsy versus Bow and Tyler Myers versus Carson Soucy. Who's the bigger X factor? You said it there, Trevor. If Tyler Myers, who like there's a 50% chance this guy falls off a cliff, right? And is back to being chaotic draft for like 95% of the season, okay? Outside of like the 20% of the season that he brought to the table when it comes to the chaos department last season. Like we need this guy to be not like, again, chaotic. We need him to be stable. And I wonder, Trevor, you and I, 31 and a half years old, like I wonder if he can build off that confidence, build off that season, build off having another year with Adam Foote. Tyler Myers, some pedigree, okay? Former Calder winner, has the attributes, has a skill set, loves Vancouver. This guy loves Vancouver. And I wonder if because of all the above, again, he can build off that momentum that he had last season. Trevor, you got to stop doubting these old people, man. 31, how old is Tyler Myers? 32, 33? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's hope, because man, oh man, I'm telling you, last time I checked, the season starts in 22 days. And he's our number 4 defenseman. And you know how we're talking about Carson Soucy, having a bit of a higher ceiling? I think it's easier for Soucy to hit his ceiling if he doesn't have to carry Tyler Myers or save Tyler Myers like he did early on last season. So if Myers can bounce back after a good last, I would say 60 regular season games, and I would strip away what he did against the Oilers because he wasn't that good in the last handful of games against the Oilers. But if he can just build off being an 82 overall defenseman and get to like 83 or 84, I think, again, he just saves the Canucks from imploding, because this team doesn't have that goaltending savior day in and day out. They got a rookie in there. We don't know how long Thatcher Demko's going to be out for. Like Tyler Myers being good again and possibly getting better, it's a 5% chance he does so, but it's so important for this team.
You're right to the extent that Tyler Myers and Carson Soucy, their success is tied to
Holy
each other if they're
shit.
playing together, right? And again, with Tyler Myers, yeah, he won the Calder again, 40, 50 years ago now. By the way, he's 34, turning 35 in February.
Oh
So
man.
not a spring chicken, as the old timers say. But yeah, I mean, look, Tyler Myers in the top four scares the crap out of me. I'm not gonna lie. And the pressure is going to be on after that contract he signed. Not the biggest contract in the world, in fact, half the contract that he signed when he originally signed with the Vancouver Canucks. But
Trevor, do the math. Trevor, do the math again, because you went down a dark path again. We're going to go to hell for this. Okay? First of all, we brought up the whole Pettersson, Crosby, Nylander thing. If people really listen there. Again, Elliot Friedman, please don't talk to any Canucks players this season. But Trevor, you did the math, I think last week when we were on the phone, or maybe when we were together. You talked about how if the Canucks didn't sign Myers and didn't sign Forbort, maybe they could have convinced Zadorov with another $100,000 to stick around.
Yeah, it was basically, what Zadorov's making $5 million. So if you don't sign Myers and Desharnais and you keep Zadorov, I mean, that's kind of the math there, right? Or Myers and Forbort, right? They got a little bit of cap space, but yeah, it's something I've been thinking about quite a bit, and I think we won't really know the true answer maybe for even a season or two, right? Zadorov might have a good first year in Boston, but that's still a long contract. But yeah, again, Tyler Myers, again, improved player last season, but man, oh man, the potential of him being in the top four does scare me going into this season. Kyle, let me toss out one other X factor, and then maybe let's get to break and see what the listeners have to say. And this feels like a bit of a cop-out because we've talked about this guy time and time again, but Arturs Silovs to me has to be an X factor for the Canucks this season, because I think we all got expectations for this guy. We're all excited about him, but he's played 19 freaking NHL games. Okay. Andrew in the comments, he's got no fear with Arturs Silovs and that he's going to show up. But I'm just saying, the guy's played 19 career NHL games. I think what I like about Silovs is the athleticism and the fact that he handles the pressure situations well, but he's not as technically sound as Demko, and he's obviously very inexperienced at the NHL level. And we might be asking this guy to carry quite the load depending on how long Thatcher Demko's out for. We might hear more about that from Alvin later this week. But to me, Arturs Silovs is easily one of the biggest X factors in the Canucks heading into the season.
And bro, I know I just brought up the whole OMG, Tyler Myers, Carson Soucy, our second pairing. They have to elevate their games and they have to hit home runs in their game in and game out pursuit this season, because we have this rookie goaltender and there's no security back there, blah, blah, blah. I know I put that on the universe, and I do kind of want to apologize, because a big part of me, like 99% of me, actually does believe that Silovs got the sauce. He's got the sauce, it's a young man's world, especially in the world of North American sports. And we've already seen this guy handle a ton of pressure, and he looked really good. I mean, based on how the Canucks normally play defense, and based on what I saw from Silovs in a lot of moments throughout the playoffs, I just feel as if the Canucks are going to actually be able to do some protecting or just keep it at the same pace. And if that's the case, Silovs, he could play at that pace. He could tread in those waters. He could do his thing. I'm also looking at him just being a team favorite too. I feel as if he has that camaraderie with the room, because I know Demko's been there for so long and he's the guy, he's one of the alphas, but when you go to war with the boys in the playoffs, which is completely different than regular season ish, you climb up the ranks when it comes to what's the word I'm looking for? Camaraderie. I already used that word. Just the brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? And he's one of the guys. And I think Hughes and company, and emphasis on Quinn Hughes because he plays defense, and I know Miller thinks the same way. I think they believe in this guy. And that goes a long way for a young goalie. Takes the pressure off.
There you go. Quinn Hughes believes in Arturs Silovs. JT Miller believes in Arturs Silovs. And most importantly, Kyle Bowen believes in Arturs Silovs. Who are you believing in to be the Canucks X Factor? Let's get into that on the other side here on Locked on Canucks.
People, we back doing this, and that's giving you Locked on Canucks. Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs at the Donto's Art Lab, the place that produces the West Coast Bias. One love to the Locked On Podcast Network for also instilling that West Coast bias and just letting us know that you have to do this every day. You have to talk to the people every day, every minute, every hour. Whenever ish happens, we're here. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a 5-star review, and Trevor and I will reap the benefits. Is that how you say it? Okay, me and Trevor need to go on double dates because we keep talking about it, and before you know it, Trevor will be moving to where are you moving again? Sri Lanka? Is that where you're going? More on that down the road, okay? Trevor, I'm happy, man. I'm happy because we told the commenters in the live chat to give us their X factors and all this jazz, and I'm happy with one of these responses. Straight up, it's making me think a lot because we didn't mention it during the last segment, and we should have mentioned it because we don't know what's going to happen when training camp starts tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen when the season starts in 22 days. Carson Soucy may be playing with Philip Hronek, and Mother Knucker from America is saying that his X factor is Philip Hronek. And honestly speaking, normally I don't like to lay the X factor title on a guy making $8+ million. You know what I'm saying? I think that's just a cop out, but that may be the perfect answer, man.
Yeah, there are two answers on the Canucks in my mind in terms of guys making a lot of money who are potential X factors, and as Philip Hronek and Elias Pettersson. And Elias Pettersson is far too much of a cop out. That being said, is this guy closer to the guy he was at the end of the regular season, or is he the same old Petey that we all know and love? I think that is a huge question for the Canucks, and that is the biggest thing in terms of what's going to determine their success this season. Philip Hronek, I trust the guy to handle his own pair, but this is the first time that he's making the big boy bucks, the number one defenseman dollars, and sure, him and Quinn Hughes can create this super pair, and I think honestly the Canucks are going to stick them together unless the rest of the defense absolutely licks. But I trust him to carry his own pair as well. So I don't think about Hronek as much of an X factor, but he's certainly up there because, again, he wasn't great in the second half of the season. So we need him to be more like the first half guy, or at least somewhere in between what he was in the first half and what he was in the second half.
No, Trevor, here's the thing, man. If you're getting paid that much money, this is the year where you have to prove, and they're different players. I'm about to mention a name. Different players, different player style, but there's ways to impact the game in different ways if you play not up to your contract value, but just your full potential. Okay, and if Philip Hronek is able to do that and be consistent the whole way through and all that jazz, then we could see a similar impact, and we should expect this similar to what Edmonton gets from Ekholm. And again, different players. Ekholm's like a man, like a real man. He's a grizzled vet. But if you're paying your second defenseman that much money, you need that impact. Now, Ekholm plays with Bouchard, Hronek plays with Hughes. I wonder if the Canucks beat the Oilers in Game 7. I know Philip Hronek scored in Game 7. Maybe they beat him in Game 6 if Philip Hronek is playing like an $8 million player in Game 6 of that series. You know what I'm saying? We need this guy to be really, really good. Really, really good. Because I think there's a lot of $4 million defensemen that could pass the puck to Philip Hronek and pass the puck to Quinn Hughes and pick up 40 points. Straight up.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And again, Philip Hronek, we'll see if he plays in his own pairing and if this is even a conversation.
Oh my God.
We'll touch on that because I'm not convinced that I think the Canucks want to keep him with Quinn Hughes, and they'll only move him if the rest of the defense sucks. And then that's not looking so good for your boy Tyler Myers there, Kyle.
Dude, you know what I just realized, Trevor, before we read more comments? You know who's talking to Philip Hronek before the season starts and we're about to see it?
Oh, no.
Yeah, don't even.
No.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
No.
It's going to happen. The guy who doesn't like to talk to media decides to open his mouth to Elliot Friedman. Okay? You know what? I like Elliot Friedman, one of the idols. But I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen during that conversation, man. Straight up. And do you remember that? Remember that quote that Ian Cole had about how the playoffs were so new to the Canucks and how he had a player come up to him and say, holy crap, each game feels like it's the biggest game of your life. And that's exhausting mentally. That's a lot of pressure. I wouldn't be surprised if Philip Hronek, a man of few words, is one of the guys who was feeling that way. Look at this comment from James Moore. Okay, look at the suit this guy's wearing. Trevor, why don't you have suits like that, bro? You're 31 and a half years old. You're a financial advisor, man. You know what I'm saying? Step it up. This guy's saying the number one X factor is Demko's health. The number 2 is Boeser getting 40 again. The number 3 one is EP40 waking up. And number 4 is Rutherford and Alvin doing deadline magic. Holy moly, man. Out of all those things, what's the most important? Because is it Pettersson waking up, or is it Demko being healthy?
Phew. Depends how much you believe in Arturs Silovs, but I think it's Elias Pettersson waking up. If Elias Pettersson doesn't wake up, this team's not winning a Stanley Cup, right? And that's the bar in
Yep.
this market. This team could theoretically win with Arturs Silovs. It's gonna be harder because Demko's what he brings in net is really hard to replace, but Silovs has the potential to do that. But if Elias Pettersson does not wake up, if he is, just a shadow of his former self, I don't think that's gonna be the case. But if that is the case, then the Canucks are going nowhere. So it's Elias Pettersson waking up. That to me is, again, a bit of a boring answer, but it's the biggest X factor on the Canucks this season.
A bit of a boring answer, but you know what? I understand where you're coming from. Because you know what? Pettersson was playing like he was like 79 overall, 81 overall. I know he had tendonitis in the knee. I know. But it's the playoffs, okay? Straight up. But look at this comment from Syndicate. Maybe we'll end on this note. He thinks that, Brock Boeser is the X factor, and I don't know if this is a cop-out, and I was just mentioning every single team on this damn roster being the X factor, right? Like, I thought Kiefer Sherwood was the X factor. I thought Daniel Sprong being able to, be top 6 worthy and being efficient is the X factor, but no, it's Brock Boeser, okay? I saw some quotes from Alvin's conversation with, I think it was Thomas Drance, and I saw some people talking about it on Twitter, and maybe I'm paraphrasing or reading in between the lines, but it just sounds as if there is a lot of pressure on Brock Boeser. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to say there's doubt from the top in Boeser and in the fact or the lie if this guy can continue to be that guy. But there's also a sentiment going around that they expect Brock Boeser to get better and be better. And bro, who was talking about that a couple days ago? Kyle Bound. It can happen. No, it's just the truth. You talk about Tocchet's philosophy on offense and how he wants to push the pace a bit more. There is a different level to Brock Boeser. This guy's coming off a big time injury. Also the broken finger. Like, there's just a lot of things going on there. He played so good last year, 40 goals, two-way player, but there is a world where Brock Boeser gets better, and they definitely want to see if he has another level to his game before they give him $8+ million.
Brock Boeser, he's the NHL's next 50-goal guy. More on that on a previous episode of Locked On Canucks. So make sure you go subscribe and like wherever you listen to podcasts, baby. Boeser is an X factor to an extent. This guy could hit 50 goals. I'm saying it. It's possible. I'm not believing in regression with this guy, but Brock Boeser, take care of your body first and foremost, and then go bang out 50 bingos for your Vancouver Canucks. We promise you, Kyle and I, we're going to continue banging out episodes of Locked On Canucks every damn day, because that's just what we do, baby. So if you want to stay along for the journey, make sure you go subscribe, like, follow, maybe even leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. For now, we got to get out of here. So shout out to the everydayers, occasional listeners, first-time listeners, new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. We love each and every one of you. Canucks training camp right around the corner, baby. So we'll do maybe a bit of a training camp preview, and also some crazy things that the Canucks could experiment with during training camp, things we want to see, and things that we think we'll actually see. All that coming up. But for now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Cal Bound, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.